When the app's acting a little wonky. Give me 1 second.
No problem.
I'm going to close it and reconnect because it's got the wrong angle now in here.
Okay, that's no problem. We can keep it running. It won't mess with anything. It's fine. So you like my FYRE shirt?
I do.
Yeah, you like it? Yeah.
Yeah, I would show
Right.
it.
You sure we had it?
I'm back. I do see Jess twice. Well, her name
boy.
once and her picture once.
Oh man,
I'm
now I
not sure.
can't. Oh,
Yeah,
Andy.
Jess, yours is echoing again. Make sure you. It looks like you have the app open twice on your phone. You got to kill all your apps and then reopen it. That was the problem I was having. And I think Andy had also.
How about mine? Is it sounding twice right now?
Yeah, but I think that's coming through Jess's end because she's open twice. So I think she's hearing it and it's feeding back through hers.
Let's see.
You will set the air conditioner to 16 degrees.
I don't think it will stop the recording, but I'm gonna leave and come in, and then Jess, after I come back in, will leave and come in as well.
Okay.
I think it's made by Spotify. All right, Andy, I see you once.
All right.
All right, your voice sounds good.
Good.
Hopefully we see Jess only once and her voice sounds good. I'm over on Starlink, so that shouldn't be the problem of Honduras internet. It's all Starlink, so this is all on Elon.
Nah, I usually have good internet here. I've had a few run-ins lately, but right now it's tracking good.
Okay, I see Jess only one time. All right,
All right.
Okay, how about now with my speaker?
perfect. All right, we're ready to rock and roll.
All right, we'll kick us off. 3, 2, 1, and we are set. So let's take off with a evening episode today of The Making of a Marketer. Jess and Andy are back with you, and we are excited to talk about one of my favorite subjects today. For those of us that are watching, I've got my FYRE shirt on. I did hint that we had a unique and special episode coming up today, Jess, and what a better time to talk about taking risk, rewards, trying something new. And, you know, we don't talk American Eagle anymore. The news of the week is Cracker Barrel. So, Jess, you know, it's always something. And I think it keeps us kind of on theme when it comes to when we talk about marketing, about risk versus reward. And no better risk versus reward than talking about FYRE today.
Totally. I mean, we're part of the cultural phenomenon or the movement.
Yes. So let's kick straight to it today. And we're here welcoming Heath Miller onto the podcast. He is the owner of Coral View Beach Resort. And if you've heard that before, that's because the FYRE Pop-Up is going to be happening at the Coral View Beach Resort. So Heath, we are super excited to have you today and learn about what you're doing with this brand, what it means for your resort, everything and anything in between. But we're just so excited to have you to be able to talk about something that has I think captured the attention of every marketer out there. So super big thank you for coming on today and answering what I hope aren't too tough of questions. We'll have some fun with this.
Yeah. So I guess where would you like me to start?
So we're going to start right where we begin with every guest this season. So season 3, we're all about selling unconventional ideas, nuanced ideas, even beyond FYRE at your resort. We just want to talk about selling ideas and what that means to you. So let's start there.
Just to clarify, when you say selling ideas, am I selling them on a B2B basis, or are you talking about to the general public?
We say either. I would say probably our brain, just correct me if I'm wrong, goes to the business side. Is a lot of times we think about when we're trying to sell through like a marketing plan. We're trying to sell through an unconventional.
Okay, so right now I'm not actually selling dollar for dollar. I'm selling basically the idea to someone to work with us on it.
Yes. That's
okay.
Correct. What is the method to your madness if you have to sell something through? That's a little bit different.
Okay. Well, I mean, in this scenario, this was actually not. Wait, do you want me to start with that question now, or it was our preamble?
It could be anything. It could be something from your past too. It doesn't.
And you're going to edit this from our preamble right now, or should we take it clean from the top?
You take it clean. That's fine.
Okay. All right. So here, just do the intro and let's roll into it then. Now that I'm clear on your ideas about what idea we're talking about.
So if you're selling through something unconventional, nuanced, different, what's the method to your madness to be able to sell something?
I mean, the first thing when we're approaching someone about working together on a project, whether it's something like FYRE or in my past on a concert, that's something a little out of the box, it has to benefit them either equally or sometimes even more than what it's going to benefit me for me to sell someone on a hard idea. So for someone that is going to attach their name to something that's maybe controversial, they got to go and say, well, does this actually benefit me in any way that's actually worth is the juice worth the squeeze? And it's really justifying that, or going and saying, hey, at the end of the day, like, nothing actually bad comes out of this. Like, if someone's wearing your sunglasses or your watch here and they see it on this thing and like nothing drastically bad happens besides, Billy just goes what everyone thinks he's going to do and does nothing. But at the end of the day, here in this scenario, it's a pretty easy sell where it's like, hey, Billy doesn't have to really do all that much. Besides, he's bringing the people, we have the canvas. So, the activities and what's been promised to people is exactly what we know how to do here that we regularly already do. Like, we're not reinventing the wheel. The really nuanced new idea in this situation is bringing in a different person, a different type of consumer, a handful of influencers, and perhaps some other interesting talent, or just the fact that Billy McFarland, world's, most infamous concert promoter, festival promoter, whatever you want to refer to him as, is at it again. Let's see what he's going to do next. And that it's like, for many people, I think they're watching this like it's a real life reality show unfolding before their eyes in press and social media. Like even for me living it firsthand, I'm just like, what curveball is going to be thrown at us, whether it's something internal from the Billy side of things or something completely out of left field that we can never predict. Like there's certain variables that could happen that are completely out of my control, like catastrophic weather or, a pandemic again. Like those are the tailwind risks we run here that I can't predict for, or if something doesn't go successful with Billy's, parole release, which is, right as the event happens so he can actually come down. Because in my opinion, I think the interest here for people is the presence of Billy leaving America for the first time in 7-8 years and getting to spend time with what some people look at as a celebrity, not necessarily an A-list celebrity. And I don't say this as an insult to him, whether it's in your mind B, C, or D-list or F-list of a celebrity, as he's known for his biggest failure in front of the eyes. You have to applaud the guy for getting up there in front of the world and going and saying, hey, I'm going to take another shot at something. And perhaps I will fail grandly in front of the entire world. But at this point, it's supposed to be a base hit. Like that's what our day one plan was for this. And for me, part of it is on my end, it's the exercise of trying to save a tainted brand. And what you could actually do with it's more than a tainted brand. Billy is looked at as a
So Jess, I know we just lost Heath there. I think we just got him back. So
Back?
yes, Heath just came back.
What was the last thing you heard me say?
The last thing we were talking about, tainted brand, when it comes to Billy and how he's trying to come to leave America for the first time and what
Right.
he's doing to rebuild that.
Right. And FYRE is not only a tainted brand, Billy is looked at as a tainted man in the execution of business in general right now from the world. But the world loves watching him fail, or at least attempt to succeed. And in Mexico, in some ways, like, it was a fail, but it was a fail that was out of his control because there was, I would say, typical Mexican issues in the way businesses down there run into problem. Whether it was governmental or other things, I don't really know, but I know his team literally was down there when the issues arose, that they were trying and attempting to do everything properly and above the board, and just either the partners they were working with down there, on the way they normally do things, perhaps this brought negative attention the mayor didn't want on her shoulders down there. But up here, we're really down here in Honduras with our local mayor here. Like, we explained to it, we talked about the risks that we may all look stupid at the end of the day. But we're trying to, approach this with open eyes that, like, everyone Billy is doing business with down here that he's going to owe money with knows they run the risk if they don't get paid in full. Like, if you only want to take half today, that might be the only half you see. I don't know. I don't believe Billy's coming down here to not pay his bills. I don't believe Billy's coming down here to burn anyone. Every financial transaction that's been attached to this pop-up event so far has been quickly and smooth. So now a lot of this goes into also the transparency with the public, because when you're dealing with such a tainted brand that many people look at as Billy as an outright criminal, which I believe he's a criminal by accident more than intent. He deserves that second chance, and America is a country, I believe, built on second chances. So granted, Honduras is definitely not in the United States of America, and I'm constantly corrected down there that Honduras is still part of the Americas, and contrary to popular belief, not in South America, definitely in North America, because Central America is not a continent. It's an interesting exercise here, is where we really get into it right now, on where we're at with trying to be as transparent to the public as possible without feeding them information that means nothing to them. About communicating with the people coming, of saying, so this is what you should expect, this is what's really going on, and not over-promising. And that's the key thing on my end, is I'm trying to under-promise. I'm trying to say, guys, this is going to basically be a curated vacation, hanging out with Billy with some music mixed in. I don't know if it's going to be big or small, but it's probably not going to be big, because we're not looking to spend $100,000 on talent for an event that's going to be around 50 people a day. And it wouldn't make sense to. And if Billy was out there doing that right now and blowing $100,000 for 50 people to watch, that would be bad business. And all the interactions we've had so far with this have been good business, have been proper dealings, and we've transmitted that information to the public in press and on socials. He's been quieter on socials in the last few weeks because, if you were about to be given the permission to leave or not leave the country for the first time in 7-8 years, you don't want to accidentally say or do something that's going to piss off the wrong person in the outside world. Which does make it a challenge right now in what I would normally do is the final couple weeks of leading into marketing on an event. But this one is about setting up for the future. This is about hitting that base hit of showing, hey guys, Billy didn't steal your money. And that's really one of the main things we have to convey in what this is as a marketing exercise of Billy is not here to steal your money. Billy's not here to lie to you, but Billy is here to be the storyteller. Billy's coming down here to create that story that conveys the vacation that he has to deliver for the people with the help of us and the people that normally do this vacation for people 365 days a year.
Yeah, this is very fascinating. Thank you for sharing that. I'm really curious about this idea of, as a marketer, working with something that is tainted or something that where there's a challenger brand mentality
Right.
that you need to.
And now there's people that are also anomalies to that. Like Billy committed a crime that was a financial crime, that was fraud, and he does not deny that. And he's painted kind of as an infamous criminal, not as a complete utter villain out to destroy people like a Martin Scrivelli, who I never personally worked with, but I know people that have in the music business. And when I worked at Webster Hall, one of my associate workers briefly had booked an event with him that was also very briefly canceled after the building got, I think, death threats. I don't think anyone's going to call a death threat against Billy because he's not looked at as an evil human being that impacted human lives past what people would say, and I'll be blunt on it, rich white people not getting what they paid for on a vacation. And most of the people that, lost money in regards to his event were essentially, successful people that were using their excess money to invest in a project that, lost money. Not that much different than an Enron or all these other companies that go out of business, except Billy did it and said everything was fine when it clearly wasn't, which is where the first step of fraud begins. Like I've said this to people before, like when I was a kid booking punk rock and hardcore shows to start, I definitely at some point said to my dad, yeah, the show did good tonight, when I definitely lost my own money on that show. But if that money was my father's or an investor's and I said that same statement, it would have been fraud. Me saying it when it had no financial impact on my dad that I lost a little money that day, because also I knew the show the day before made money, the show the next week was hopefully going to make money. But in his case, that's where the fraud begins, when you say everything is fine to people that gave you money and that you have a fiduciary responsibility for.
So you're talking about, being fully transparent. Absolutely agree. As a marketer, under promising. What other things are you doing to, again, like take on this like challenger brand perception? And because you're right, like I think people in general, they love to see like a second chance work out. They love to see an underdog like push through like all of the bad stories. So I see where you're going.
So, and in this scenario, being the owner and operator, who the mayor of our island has been on board and in the conversations since literally day one. And day one wasn't as recent as a lot of people think, because originally we did have conversations about bringing the whole FYRE Festival here, but then he chose Mexico over here. And clearly that wasn't the best decision. But our mayor was very happy to say, yeah, let's do a small little pop-up event, whatever. Like that's no different than what we do every other weekend on this island practically, that there's always things happening here. Like in last year we've had, besides our ongoing like carnival, there's been some concerts, there's been like EDM, like, electronic music events. There's been a Harley race. There's been a 10K race. There's been multiple fishing contests. It's like we're dealing with influxes of people here on the island, and all the variables that Billy ran into in Mexico and in Exuma originally are things like I've already kind of addressed here. Like I'm like, okay, the logistics of getting people to the island. I'm very fortunate that my wife's cousins own the 2 ferries that run to the island. So it's an easy conversation to be like, hey, quick question. If this thing kicks off really hard and I need to pull 300 people in more than normal, is that an issue? And it's like, no problem. We'll just run an extra boat for you. It's like easy stuff, even though it's an hour ferry ride. It's like if the people are there, the local companies are actually happy to provide services and take their money. It's a novel concept.
And the thing you already mentioned real early on, Heath, just so people know that maybe aren't as close to this or familiar with it. The pop-up, you said, is for 50 people, so it's much smaller than the first FYRE Festival, for instance, that a lot of people are probably familiar with from the documentaries.
Smaller event, or sometimes they can be bigger, but in a non-traditional setting. So I'm looking at this in the light of some things that I've attended as a consumer in the past. Like there used to be a blog called, I think they might still be around actually. I'm just not as involved in music on a day-to-day as I once was, called The Wild Honey Pie. And they used to do these influencer getaways that they did one to a ski resort once. They did one just to a campground, and they had like some smaller artists and DJs around on some of them. Some of them, it was just putting like interesting people from the entertainment industry and influencer world together just to really talk about ideas and make things happen and build relationships, whether it was on marketing or content or music, of just really putting together people away from the distractions of the city or the normalcy places of conferences where you can disconnect and like really get creative. Because I look at like this situation as like the biggest benefit to everyone that's coming as an influencer, to my hotel, to Billy, and to anyone else that may be participating as a content, capture situation, to capture a unique moment that can be recycled on their socials, on media in general, perhaps a reality show if it, gets picked up, because it's not done till it's done on that level. But
well, that's a question in itself, Heath. Is there a reality show? Has Netflix reached out? Are you allowed to say if there's anything going on in that world?
I mean, Billy has a major Hollywood agency that has been representing the taping rights of his general activities. I know he's had a camera person on hand capturing a lot of things, and they plan on bringing down at least one camera person from the States. And they did hire one camera person and one drone person locally for capture also. So I didn't know those people were paid. So I know he's at least put some skin in the game that, there will be content coming out of this one way or another. I hope it'll be more than just me and my wife and a couple of friends hanging out.
I'm sure, at the very least, Heath, I've seen some pictures. I haven't been to Honduras myself, but it should be beautiful. And, I get in that TikTok motion. Like, for instance, I typed in Ireland into TikTok the other day. Now I have a bunch of influencers that are over there and doing exactly what you're saying. And they're at little pop-ups. They're doing different things at different resorts. So it's kind of that methodology of kind of getting into that flow. So I definitely see where you're going with that.
Right. Have either of you heard of the Island Utila before this event?
I hadn't, no.
Okay, so our marketing's working. Good.
Yeah. So let's take it back a little bit. So even before this starts to come about, FYRE Pop-Up, tell us about your relationship with Billy, Heath. Was he someone that you knew prior to this activation, being
Yes.
in the world of concerts? And what would you say your interactions were when you first started this? Was your guard up? Were you kind of like, let's go for it? Like, just take us through the process, knowing Billy then, knowing Billy now.
Sure.
Like, we're super curious how it comes about.
Okay. So the first time I met Billy was in 2015. We were actually able to pinpoint the first show we met at in person was an Action Bronson show in New York at, I believe, Club Space. So we met when he was running Magnesis, which was his card membership thing in New York. And we were doing some VI packages with him at Webster Hall for his customers for Magnesis. He always paid us on time for his VIP packages. So, everything else is like, well, he didn't burn me. He successfully did business with us in the past, and I have nothing negative to say about it. Let's try it again. People fuck up. If someone gave me a bag of $24 million in my early 20s and said, go book a festival and have fun with Kendall Jenner and all these other supermodels, I think a lot of people would have ended up in a similar situation. Just wouldn't have maybe gone down the rabbit hole as far as he did in digging that hole. And I can understand that, because when you're booking like at the same age as him, I'm a little older than him, so years prior, a lot of these concerts or even like nightlife events, do a lot of last minute walk up sales. That like a lot of times it's like, oh, people are going to show up. And a lot of times last minute people do show up. For a destination, what's going on with our Wi-Fi? Andy?
We still have you.
Okay, good. Just like anytime I just go like that. If anytime I cut out, we've gotten some rain today, which is probably why Starlink is, I guess, freezing up.
No problem. No, but Jess, let's let's hop to that. You know, like, let's think about it. You and I, like, I'm curious your thoughts. If I was given $24 million as a marketer in our early 20s, like we talked about this a lot, Heath, like in the beginning of our careers. I don't know what I would have done. Like, I
No, no,
mean,
no, Andy, you have to look at it the right way. You were given $24 million roughly to do one event.
what event?
And now this event's going to be super luxury, so you're going to spend a lot, but don't worry, we're going to sell the tickets for a lot. This
Yeah, I
sounds like a
mean,
good idea around a camp. This sounds like a great idea around a campfire in the Caribbean somewhere where this idea started to move it from small events he was doing to bigger events where the problems began.
yeah, yeah, kind of overextending your reach, which, you know, is something for our marketers out there. I think young marketers run into this a lot, with or without the $24 million. But once you start to gain some traction, some viral nature, you know, it's hard sometimes to stop the train, and that's something that I could at least see from watching the documentaries. So it makes sense with what you're saying
All right.
there.
Now, Andy, if your budget was $24 million and you're 23 years old, I think he was at the time, or 25, early to mid 20s, you feel like that money is never going to run out. Like you have fucking Ja Rule hanging out with you on a yacht with supermodels. The money's never going to run out. You're king of the world.
Yeah.
Like literally, like paint that
Nope,
picture.
really saw
Like
it. That
this
was
is
that was a quote
this is
from the Netflix show.
like this is I didn't even realize that, but like
Yeah.
this is like every 15-year-old kid's dream life. Like this is every prepubescent boy's fantasy to be in your 20s doing that.
Yeah.
Like Billy, almost like if he pulled it off, he would have been the Hugh Hefner in a way of a generation. But he did not pull it off. You know, he failed miserably on it. But it wasn't just him, obviously. And I really applaud the guy for taking the L and like for publicly taking the loss, not blaming anyone else. Like no one else went to jail over this. He took every ounce of blame. And I'm sure there's other guilty people in the room with him that, you know, I applaud him for taking the loss above everyone else. Like it's like straight out of a fucking mafia movie of like no snitching. And not saying anything like that ever happened. But like when you really look at it, it's like he basically stood up there and just said, no one else is coming with me. I'm going away for a few years. I fucked up.
Yeah, you're right. I do respect. I respect anyone that takes accountability, responsibility for their actions, and I actually wish we could see more marketers just say, more marketers, more executives say, yes, I made a mistake here, and taking ownership.
Yeah, I mean, look, you even see the Wolf of Wall Street guy who's, you know, exponentially bigger than Billy McFarland on social media. Crushing on social, like doing this whole shtick. I think he's selling courses now, whatever, on this like
Yeah,
that aspect of him.
Now.
Yeah, he's doing the master classes. And not that the guy didn't have success, but he's famous for his, you know, criminal nature of his over excess. And that guy hurt people financially, I think, a lot more than Billy did. And he not only got a movie, he got portrayed by Leonardo DiCaprio, if I remember correctly.
Yes. Yes. That movie, I still believe, holds record for most F-bombs in an entire movie. I think it beat Scarface. So I do believe it still holds that. We'd have to ask if that part's true. Now, Heath,
Yes.
tell me now, your resort. So beautiful location. You talked about pop-up events. Comment over there. Why is your resort the place for this? What is FYRE now attached to your resort? What does it do for you in the long run? We talked a little bit about, you know, the influencers, the nature of content sharing, but is there a longer play for you here by having, you know, this flame, if you can see the video screen that's on our shirt,
Sure.
showing up at your resort here in a few weeks?
You can take the router. Maybe that'll help. Yeah, just the white router. Just move it a little closer.
No, you're good now.
Okay. Well, first of all, it's like I own the resort. I operate the resort. I've been here now 5 years as of this month, like almost to the day, if not to the day, actually. I think tomorrow might be my 5 years here. So over the last 5 years, I've run a variety of kinds of events here, from a Miss Honduras competition, pre-party, to electronic music events, to some just like singer-songwriter things, to dive groups, strings church groups, to normal church groups, and everything in between. Not a full-fledged concert here. And we're not trying to do a full-fledged concert here. We're trying to do something stripped down and easy. But I've also seen on some of the fails on things that happened on other events that have happened here that they didn't plan for, as well as, you know, one or two things that went wrong here. Like, for example, someone that, you know, did not test things properly with a generator they rented or things of that nature. And things where it's just like, you're on an island an hour from the mainland that if something breaks, there's not a local mall for us to run to. So even like running into the festival now, there's a couple of things that I know I had to ship from the States that a month and a half ago I ordered to make sure I have the spares on hand today, because if it breaks on August 31st, I'm not going to get a new one here very quickly unless I literally ask someone to fly it in with them on the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, or 5th when people are arriving. So knowing those logistics and then knowing my event experience from New York, from running concerts literally since I was age 16 and doing sound before I even ran concerts, and luckily taking a few years of electronics in high school and, I think 1 year of electrical, gave me a good experience set of how to fix those problems that usually no one else in the room knows how to fix. Because it's those random things of like, oh, when I was 16 once I blew a fuse like this, and this is how like I got by on that on bridging this, or, you know, other random things that I've done over the years of just very few people that I think would be in the hotel world ever had to deal with, you know, bridging speakers together on Black Friday when every electronics store in New York is closed to get a concert to still happen that night. And the speakers did not sound as good as they, you know, usually did, but the artist was able still to successfully play and perform just down a couple monitors that got replaced to the front of house speakers that blew out.
Heath, do you have any recommendations for our listeners out there, our marketers that are going into, a challenger branding type scenario and like building a contingency plan? Like how, because it sounds like that even though there are things that you know that are not in your control, you're building something here and you're organized.
Yeah, I mean, you have to also, you know, there's certain things you have to really plan ahead of the curve. Like, for example, and this was like depending on, you know, what our ultimate audience size was going to be, that if we grew to a part where I think any activation during the festival would be over 100 people, which I think only one thing will probably be, you know, a bigger thing that will open up to the community at this point. That's like, okay, which is the biggest churches on the island in case of rain? Meaning, like, do I have a place on, like, if I had to put 300 people inside on this island, where do we go? Where do I have to throw money at the problem, you know, to fix that problem if we got hit with a storm that day? And luckily, like, we do have churches on the island that would be probably happy to accept a few dollars of donation on a night that they would be normally closed. But then there's also knowing which night is which church open here. Because if you know Latin America, they love their churches. There's a lot of them here. I think we have an equal amount of churches and bars actually on Utila.
Well,
I mean, that's pretty seriously.
I love that you're just thinking about all of the different ways that you could mitigate any type of risk. And that, to me, Heath, shows the experience of you doing different events. So, like, from my past, I've never planned a concert. Being in radio as a radio host for a handful of years, I at least had a backstage pass as to how some of this worked. You know, kind of like, if this happens, we do this. If that happens, we do this. Then we get to the show and something crazy's happening behind the scenes, and, you know, I'm kind of just chilling with like my Bacardi and Coke and kind of like, wow, there's a lot more going on here than I ever knew about. So that was kind of an angle I took when watching the FYRE documentary, was similar to you. Would I have, you know, a lot of us, we put, like you said, we put our shoes on and say we'd never do what Billy did. But I also kind of like watching it unfold. I was like, the idea, I see how it started. I see how the idea got out of control. I see how there was no mitigation to the idea. So, like, what you're really showing is mitigation.
You could clearly see some of the disconnects. And when I go back to when you're in your early to mid 20s and someone hands you, millions and millions of dollars and you don't think that money is going to end up running out, there's a lot of things you don't bother budgeting because like it's an incidental item that you're like, oh, it's whatever, it's a miscellaneous $1,000. It's a miscellaneous 10 grand, whatever. We're selling tickets for 5,000 each. Don't worry, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
And don't worry, it'll be fine. Like I recently actually fired a manager that I told him so many times to stop saying don't worry, because one day you're going to say don't worry when it's like, no, dude, worry. And it's like there was one weekend he's like, oh, the water is running really low for the hotel because we're on cisterns here because we're on an island, with salt water around us. And I'm just like, the hotel's sold out this weekend. Worry, because if we run out of water this weekend, you won't have a job on Monday because we can't run the hotel without water. At the end of the day, we need water and electricity. Those are the two things that are the most important things. Everything else we could fix, everything else we can get by. If we ran out of food, people eat somewhere else. It's fine. If the island got shut down and there's no supplies coming in from the mainland, we can fish. It'll be fine. Like we'll get by for a few days. But if we have no electricity and no water, it is not fine. And there's like those tailwind risks that you can't plan for. Like I literally once had lightning strike a building. And the concert ended up getting shut down at some point later that night because we didn't have power in half the building, but we had power in the other half of the building. And the alarm system for the fire alarms was apparently on the half of the grid that was out. And when there's a fire alarm, apparently eventually their battery backup died. That's when the evening came to an end because we didn't have a working fire alarm system anymore. Lightning literally struck that building.
Just a sidebar here, Heath. I actually love that you are on board with saying don't worry. You're reminding me of I went into a very dicey wedding abroad, and we were at a hotel, and everything that happened that you could imagine went wrong, and we did lose power and electricity.
Yeah.
And it's one of the staff came to us and said, "Don't worry, be happy." And I like still to this day, like that's like our running joke. The line.
And none of us look like violent people here. But like sometimes when someone says don't worry to you and you're like, no, this is a worry situation, you just want to hit them with all your might in the face and be like, no. Like some of the decisions we make, lives are at stake. Like I can reflect back in my concert career on a few moments, and like one of them I've already actually written out that's in the book I'm working on that involves one of the top 10 artists of the world on a situation that if I made the wrong decision, I think people would have died. I really think I would have had a similar situation on what happened with Travis Scott in Texas.
Yep,
and it's someone that is bigger than Travis Scott technically on a pop-up underplay event where it's like, trust me, at one point I very painfully said, no, Billy, don't bring Sean Paul to this, because if we advertise Sean Paul, we will have like people just taking all their own boats trying to get here to see Sean Paul, and we will have a problem. Like, I hated having to say, no, do not book Sean Paul for this, because that would have been awesome, and we would have been a disaster. We'd get more press that way, but that doesn't actually achieve the ultimate goal of trying to save a tainted brand and also expose the island Utila and my hotel, the Coral View Beach Resort, to millions of people that have never heard of it, that a fraction of them will actually pay attention to it, but is a significant fraction more that would normally ever hear about this place.
So let's put the hypothetical hat on for you right now. You're Billy McFarland. You've pulled this off. It's the first step to rebounding the FYRE brand. The pop-up went well. What's next after that for Billy? Is this something he builds up? Does he start to look to do the full-blown FYRE Festival? Does he do more pop-up, smaller scenarios like this? Do we go back to Sean Paul? Like, what do you think the game plan is? And maybe you don't know, but like if you were advising him now.
Knowing what I know that I know I'm okay to say, because I don't want to overstep my bounds on things that are forthcoming releases, which is why before this podcast, I asked you on your timeline on actually airing it, because I don't want to spill the beans on some of the projects Billy's working on. But I'll say I believe it's publicly known that Billy sold the FYRE Festival rights on eBay.
Yes.
I don't know yet, and I don't think he knows yet, and I don't think he'll even know until after this what the festival's involvement with him or not will be going forward. But regardless of that, I believe he intends on doing more pop-up events here under a new exciting brand name and a concept to try to roll out, you know, a smaller pop-up event series across here and maybe other hotels in general.
And that's what he was familiar with doing a little bit before FYRE Festival, correct? Like it takes us back to like the Magnesis and kind of the stuff that he started in the 2010s.
And I think like that's a niche segment that actually there is room to grow. And that's actually when I came down to Utila first, it was in my original plan that got derailed a little bit with the pandemic and then the passing of my father. That kind of just pushed timeline back. And this has been also the first time that I feel that the hotel is in a good enough condition that I feel comfortable inviting people here for an event, that I feel that I have competent staff that actually knows enough to actually execute this, that this isn't a fail. So like when I made these initial announcements, I definitely got a lot of like, lol, really, from people. From people that are friends, people in the music industry, entertainment in general, and a bunch of bands directly reached out to me that some that were interested in playing it. And I would say, unfortunately, most were very off-brand. But, you know, like a lot of my beginnings were in the punk and emo world, and a lot of those bands have gotten pretty massive nowadays. And, you know, I said, hey, guys, look, after I get through this one, I'm totally down to do an emo island takeover, and we do it in the same way that we used to do the VIP fan club stuff. You pick your lift. I keep basically my ticket price, the hotel room. You get 100% of your lift, and you do what you want. I'll give you the hotel room. You take care of your flights. That's your contribution. I'm contributing the hotel rooms. And, you know, like this goes well at $100 a day for, you know, 48 people across 24 rooms, anywhere from like 1 to 4 people for most rooms, let's say, looking at average. A band could make $20,000 doing this over a 4-day weekend. For a lot of bands, that's not that much money. But for a lot of these bands that go and say, wait, I get a free vacation, I get to go scuba diving with my super fans, I get awesome, unique content capture, this is actually a pretty good deal, and I can do this on a time where I'm not going to normally tour in America like the dead of January. Not a bad idea.
Heath, I love that you're proving the point. We talk about this on every episode, how everyone within an organization, no matter what your title, discipline, we're all marketers. And I just love that how you're already building, that you're thinking like a marketer, and you are a marketer, and you're building on this like the redemption story that is going to occur from going like smaller
and hopefully, but like no matter what, I can guarantee that people are going to have a hotel room when they arrive here.
Yeah,
they're going to have a dive boat to go diving on. They're going to have a functional boat. If something happens with my boat, I know at the end of the day I have to dip into my pocket to pay for a rental boat. We've already talked to people to have 2 backup rental boats on hand just in case, because saltwater is a fucking nightmare to deal with, man.
Yeah.
And like people like to say the best day when you buy a boat. Do you know the saying that the 2 best days when you buy a boat as a boat owner? It's the day you buy it and the day you sell it.
Yeah.
They're an expensive thing to maintain.
Yeah.
And, you know, particularly in a region where I have to ship a lot of these parts from the US, and a lot of boat parts are expensive and heavy, you know, and that's one thing. I know if my boat breaks down, I'm probably not going to necessarily be able to repair it same day, depending on what breaks. And that's why we have to have backup boats available, you know, from all the other, you know, shops on the island. You know, it's knowing that redundancy of and also the willingness of knowing and saying, in this scenario, I can't stick Billy with that cost if my boat breaks, that it's on me to do. But from day one on this project, both of us said publicly, neither of us are going to make money on this. In fact, I'm sure Billy's going to lose money on this. On my end, maybe I'll make some money on food and Am I back? Okay. Most of my projected revenue, I've already spent that and then some on just some general improvements and repainting the building to make it look a little nicer for the cameras. because once again, that salt water and that salt in the air beats things to death here. I like to make a joke that this is the one place on earth that plastic rusts.
Heath, we could go on and on. I'm so fascinated by this. I'm going to be watching on all my channels, and very curious. And we're really rooting for this to work for you, because as a business owner, one thing that I realized, I told you a little bit about my history of being a radio host. After that, my history is working for agencies, marketing agencies, where we dealt with small businesses to medium-sized business owners, and then eventually worked my way up into like more of the corporate stuff and whatnot. But I saw the impact that associating with certain brands, events, different things have on businesses, and how the marketing and what we put into place, can go a long way for people. So I'm hopeful that this, not only, like you said, if you break even, sell some food, helps, but hopefully it elevates the brand, the island, like it kind of showcases it in some new ways.
I've already actually seen an impact. So my year over year for July and August is significantly up.
Awesome.
In regards of like last August was horrible, really, really slow. I think, and then like when I say slow, I mean like real slow. Like I think we're about 4x what we did last August right now, and the month still has a couple days left. And granted, last August was really slow for some reason, but this July was a huge jump from last July, and July last year was already good. Like this July moved from good to great. And like this has been the best July in the last 5 years, the best August in the last 5 years. And when I look at my growth chart for the year, you see coming out of June, like when the press starts hitting, like we saw an impact. Like that's the only thing I've done differently in my marketing this year. Like I don't do a lot of normal marketing. And on the hotel side, a lot of your marketing is through the OTAs and things like that, like Booking.com and Expedia, and not really, a lot of the marketing I used to do in New York in the music world. Because also here, I'm not marketing to a region, I'm marketing to the entire world.
Yeah.
I know where most divers could be theoretically coming from, but like there's divers all over the place.
Well, Heath, I know we're at time here. This has been a wonderful segment. Jess and I are going to be watching, and then for those of us that are watching on the streams, once again, be sure, even if you're not going to FYRE, check out Coral View Beach Resort. Put it into TikTok, look at some of the videos coming out. Connect with Heath on LinkedIn too, where we found each other, Heath Miller on LinkedIn. We'll be looking at your updates on there, and we're super excited to see how this plays out. I think you've answered a lot of questions, and for those that were on the fence, hopefully this kind of like helped showcase some of the things you're doing at your resort.
Yeah, and Andy, one other thing I've been working on unrelated to this was a book about my music career. Producing and booking concerts and managing bands, and doing some recordings of bands that became pretty freaking massive, to say the least. But this is going to end up being, I guess, the unexpected afterword of the book, or final chapter, depending on what direction this goes in.
Definitely let us know, because we do book episodes, so we would love to have a copy, review it, and have you back.
I need to find a publisher still. Hopefully, this will help me. I've been harassing my contacts at CAA and William Morris, and like I don't think I'm famous enough yet or important enough yet, even though half of the bands that are on the book are massive clients of theirs.
Well, we're rooting for you on that, and we're very excited to see how it all plays out. I'll be reading. This is definitely my old world of radio, so I'll be curious to hear some of these backstage stories.
I mean, a lot of them are the foreground stories too, and like some of these are the truth behind things that made the cover of the New York Times that no one knows the true story of, besides the people that were in the room at the time.
They were there. Love it.
Yeah, very juicy.
Yes, from helicopters to stabbings to Kanye West and everything in between.
Oh, Kanye's gonna stop the scroll.
Yeah, you can Google that. It's a fun read. The Kanye West Webster Hall night. Just looking on the internet, that taught me a lot of where the mistakes were and how to avoid them in the future. But that was a night that I made the right decision and no one died.
I'll do my nighttime reading tonight. And Heath, thank you so much again for joining us today.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Heath.
So, Jess, to close this out, I think just wonderful learnings today from Heath. Like I know Billy from the documentaries, and I know Billy from like some of the new content that of course has come out. So like I'm always curious because Heath hit on a very interesting point about the Wolf of Wall Street dude. Like he actually is really popular now, but he has a whole movie made about him and like terrible things he did. So it's not beyond belief that someone like Billy like could come back and do these things. But I'm just so curious as a marketer, what is the actual approach here? What is the long game here? And that explanation by Heath, I don't think I had heard that explained to that extent. So this was really insightful all around for us.
Totally. Heath is a marketer that has it together. And I really enjoyed hearing his perspective. And I love to hear too how this risk that he is taking as a marketer, he's already seen returns and returns that you may not expect. But it's like it's almost like you're creating an allure with his customers and with the audience and thinking like, why would Heath be working with Billy? Like it's like creating that curiosity, and I actually do love to see that. But he's got it together, and I think that's half the battle.
Yeah, I like that I love the Sean Paul story. So I like that, I was kind of wondering, it's like they're gonna bring music artists, like can they handle this? And he actually has said, no, this is what the type of event that this is. We have to do it right. So it's interesting to hear that perspective, that for his brand, for his hotel, for the longevity of what comes after this, it doesn't put him on the hook financially per se, but it does put him on the hook that, we do want there to be some positivity that comes out of this, that the presentation of what the influencers show looks good. So I think it's interesting how he's directing that, coming from that concert background. I think that creates that unique perspective.
Totally. And I think this is an important lesson for all of our listeners out there, in this idea that we sometimes get stuck in like the social frenzy, and it's like you just want to go viral. You want to go so big right away, and it is okay. And sometimes I think it can actually unleash more of your creativity if you do go small. So I loved hearing that sentiment from Heath as he was like describing his journey and perspective and taking this on, like going small, under promising. These are all things that I think we don't gravitate towards, but if we do, it's actually a really good thing.
And there's a lot to be said here just about talking. So like getting people to talk about your brand. Now, today was a special episode dedicated to FYRE. Jess, I have 2.5 hours worth I could talk about Cracker Barrel. Sydney Sweeney, American Eagle, you're off the hook. Cracker Barrel, you're up now. So like it's something new every week. But at the end of the day, I don't know if I like all what Cracker Barrel is doing here, but I have not talked about that brand as much as I have in the last 48 hours, 72 hours, in the last 15 years that I've talked about it lately. So there is always something to it.
Hey, Andy, I have a quick question if I can interject about Cracker Barrel.
Yes, go for it.
They make cheese, I think, right?
They are the country restaurant.
No, but I think they sell cheese there, right?
Do they?
I think I haven't been in a while, but yeah, they do have a general store. That's the restaurant.
I think maybe we should have Billy reach out to them, because a lot of people have requested a updated cheese sandwich.
Love it. The Cracker Barrel cheese sandwich. Hey, if we put FYRE in the country store, probably help their sales.
Actually, going back to the cheese sandwich, if you don't mind for a second. Yeah. And this is actually something I missed in our earlier conversation. So one of the things I've done also is being very proactive in responding to people on Reddit and our Instagram comments. And, with seriousness, but a bit of snark here and there. Like telling people that when they're like, oh, making cheese sandwich comments, saying, well, you're kind of being a little culturally insensitive here. Down in Honduras, we have baleadas. And that's like their, kind of our technical like equivalent of a cheese sandwich in a way. But it's like, really poking fun in it. It's like, come on, the cheese sandwich joke is beat to death, but it's still funny, obviously. But like, responding to those comments and not ignoring it. People I literally got some people saying, "What is wrong with you?" And it's like, I'm not going to make the same comment I once made that everyone got all up in arms about on comparing Billy to people. But it's like, America's a country filled with second chances. Even Martha Stewart, I think she did some fraud stuff, right? She is awesome.
Yeah. She's the ultimate OG of taking the hit. She took the hit for everybody.
I mean, honestly, that's what we need. We need a Martha Stewart X Snoop Dogg X Billy McFarland pop-up here.
Yeah. Hey,
Martha that would be marketing gold.
You could do the show.
I think I know someone that knows her. I'm going to try to get a message floated her way. Not joking. I got this.
No, I love Martha. But, I think what we're getting at, though, is that's a great, Heath popping on. Talk about that. This is a great symbolism right here. Cracker Barrel. Go have some fun with it at this point. You tanked your stock $100 million. You redeemed a lot of it back. I would have fun with it now as a brand. What more can you lose?
I think they completely should. If you look at what Radio Shack's Twitter did about 2 years ago, it was like Radio Shack let an unhinged teenager take over their Twitter was the vibe. Yeah. And it was the coolest thing. It was so great. I think Cracker Barrel should be out there making white trash jokes, crack jokes, all kinds of crazy jokes in social right now. I think that's their redemption story of come here, half price if your gun is on your pickup truck. Jokes like that would be great.
Well, there's absolutely something to, again, this idea of learning fast, like I like to say, or you could say failing fast, but yeah, just trying something. See, does the audience like this? Does this resonate? Trying something, and if it doesn't work, move on, go to the next.
People
but also you can monetize failure. Billy has shown us that you could monetize failure. Even though the FYRE brand
I mean, Jess, I would say the best way to monetize failure is what I'm showing right now. We still wear the FYRE shirts, have some fun.
Right, and Andy, we discussed that you committed fraud by buying that shirt since you bought that on Amazon from a illegally counterfeit source. And actually, it's funny. I pointed those out to Billy when we first started talking, and I said, "Dude, people are ripping you off. You should contact Amazon. This is definitive fraud unless you license that to people. This is impacting your T-shirt sales." What Amazon is actually doing, and I own Amazon stock, I'll admit it, but Amazon is actually contributing to global counterfeit and is limiting Billy McFarland's ability to pay back the investors he defrauded by selling counterfeit shirts. That Amazon is actually is allowing criminal activity. And I hate saying this because I don't want their stock to go down, and I'm sure it won't over this, but still, this is clear public fraud that Amazon is enabling against Billy McFarland and his ability to repay the public.
If there's a store that goes up, FYRE store, I would love to have a real one. So I would make it right with Billy.
I mean, they had a FYRE merch store. I don't know where it's at right now with the sale, but email Billy. I mean, he's easy. Message him on Instagram. He's easy to get in touch with. You guys are connected on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
He follows you.
Yeah. Well, we could have Billy on next. After the show, of course. I know he wants to get through the pop-up.
I think a post with Billy would be good. I mean, he's pretty transparent nowadays on these things. I tell him when I'm going on a podcast, so he's not surprised because I'm not looking to ambush the guy, and he knows I'm overly transparent on this because I don't want to impact my brand name negatively, only positively.
Well, I'm going to wrap here, Jess. And Heath, this has been wonderful just to kind of talk it through. And again, lots of learnings. We talk so much about risk on this show. We want to hear it. We want to hear it from the horse's mouth, if you will, Heath. So give us some risk, give us some reward. And again, we're going to be watching early September. This is going to get cut underway. So watch your socials. Again, give Heath a follow, and we will keep the FYRE train rolling here and do a recap once this is over. So thank you both for a wonderful conversation today.
Oh, thank you. On Instagram, it's Coral View Utila, and my Instagram is Heath S. Miller. We also, in addition to the hotel, we run a nonprofit called Support Utila, which Billy has graciously donated 18 computers, which are going to furnish the new public schools computer room on Pigeon Key, one of the keys off the island. Because I forgot to say this earlier, one of my stipulations with Billy was donate a bunch of computers. So at the end of the day, if I waste all my time on this all summer for nothing, at least I helped out the kids on the island that'll eventually hopefully work for me and know how to use a computer better.
I love it.
That's great.
Yeah. But anyway, that's called Support Utila, supportutila.org. If anyone wants to donate or mail down some computers, kids need computers here.
Awesome. Alrighty, thank you both, and we'll talk soon.
All right,
Bye,
cool.
everybody.
Thanks, guys.